I feel like at some point he's gonna call me a clown. That's his like go-to.
I'll be like, that's me.
135 pounds, 135.1 is official.
It's different levels. You know what I mean? It's definitely different levels when you come.
Jake Paul may have built his reputation on confidence and controversy, but the latest footage of a bulked-up Gervonta Tank Davis seems to have rattled even him. As clips of a noticeably stronger and more muscular Davis went viral, fans began speculating that Paul might have underestimated the lightweight champion's transformation. Known for his explosive power and surgical precision, Davis now looks closer to a natural welterweight, sending a clear message that he's not showing up for entertainment, but domination. Sources close to Paul suggest the YouTuber-turned-boxer is starting to feel the pressure, realizing that this version of Tank might be far more dangerous than anyone anticipated. As the countdown to the November 14th showdown intensifies, fans and analysts are stunned by Davis's dramatic transformation. Known for his explosive power and compact frame, the 5'5" lightweight has packed on serious muscle, appearing stronger, faster, and more dangerous than ever before. The visual contrast between Davis's new build and Paul's cruiserweight frame, highlighted during their heated Miami faceoff where Davis shoved Paul, has only heightened the tension. With Davis now looking like a compact powerhouse, questions are swirling about whether Jake Paul's trademark confidence is beginning to crack under the pressure of facing a fighter who's not just skilled, but now physically intimidating. Davis has long been respected for his punching power, speed, and ring IQ. But his recent physical transformation has taken things to another level. Photos and videos from his training camp show a noticeably stronger version of Tank. Broader shoulders, thicker arms, and a tighter core, all while keeping his trademark agility. This isn't just a fighter bulking up for show. It's a fighter sculpting himself to dominate.
Right? Who's not a professional fighter. What happens? What happens? That's what would sell it. I know the size difference is what creates the problem. The optics, the look, the reality. I mean, you got one guy who's fights at 135 pounds, and you got another guy who fights at 200. I mean, just that alone, yeah. But you also, and I'm not saying I want this or I like this when I heard it. No, I didn't like it, to be honest, for the optics and everything else I just said. But you do have one guy who, yeah, he's smaller, but he's a top fighter. He can punch, and he's fighting a guy who's not a top pro fighter, who's bigger. What if he hits him on the chin?
In a recent interview, the UFC bantamweight champion bluntly stated that Davis is levels above Paul in both skill and fight IQ. Ali acknowledged Paul's physical advantages but dismissed them as meaningless against a fighter like Tank, undefeated and feared for his knockout power. He also criticized the commission's decision to label the bout an exhibition, arguing that it strips away the fight's true competitive edge.
Think of him and Tank.
I enjoy these fucking stupid spectacles. I enjoy them. I'm excited for it. The controversy, the press conference, the weigh-ins. Imagine those two stand next to each other.
Yeah.
Dude, Jake is a big motherfucker. It's basically like you two standing next to each other. Like if you guys stood up, it looks like that. Steiny's a little bit, I think, taller than Gervonta.
But I'm a feisty bro. It's not about the size of the dog. It's about the size of the what?
However, many observers see the fight more as a crossover spectacle than a legitimate title bout, sparking debate over fairness, safety, and the integrity of boxing's traditional weight class system.
Tank is not the guy that knows how to sell a fight. Tank cannot sell a fight in his own division. You have the Paul brothers and they come over to boxing. Their idea from day one is we don't have the skills or the experience. What we're gonna do is we'll take on the absolute best guys, but they're gonna spot us some pounds. Tank has one job to do, that it doesn't make any difference, that boxing is a real sport. My skills versus your skills, of which I am an abundance of and of which you have none of. Tank is telling anybody that will listen that there's a size problem. My skills and my experience in boxing, I do not have to wonder who's in the bar tonight. Any bar I go to, I rule the bar. No, it turns out that you don't. Just need some big guy to corner you, apparently. Boxing has never stood its ground. Boxing has never been able to explain why Floyd needed a half hour to get rid of a guy who's never boxed before. Tank Davis has already began this. When you choose a dum-dum, don't be surprised when he goes out and acts like a dum-dum.
Experts argue that most of Paul's fights lack real competitive logic or balance, appearing more like attention-driven spectacles than legitimate matchups. Instead of testing himself against opponents who make sense stylistically or within his weight class, Jake continues to choose unconventional fights, keeping things entertaining, but far from serious boxing contests.
Won the fight. But yeah, that was that. This time, Jake Paul is to take on Tank Davis. Tank Davis, he was recently in the news for being arrested for a domestic violence incident involving one of his kids' mother. He was alleged to have slapped her about the place. The charges were later dropped, to be fair to him. But yeah, that was when he was last in the news. What is interesting is just a couple of months ago, Tank Davis was saying openly that he'd lost his passion for boxing and that he wanted time away from the sport. There was speculation that he might even retire, as he was experiencing extreme mental fatigue from boxing, depression, and there were mental health concerns over him. However, I guess the opportunity to earn a truck full of money, fighting a completely worthless exhibition fight against Jake Paul, was enough to make him change his mind about boxing. Funny that, isn't it? But you know what? I'm not even going to waste your time or mine critiquing this utter nonsense. Suffice to say that this so-called fight we're talking about is an exhibition, and it pits Jake Paul, who is a cruiserweight, by the way, weighs in excess of 200 pounds, and Tank Davis, who is, he was the WBA lightweight champion, who weighs in at about 135 pounds when he fights. So that's a disparity of some 65 pounds. In old money, that's about 4.5 stone. There's also a significant difference in height. Jake Paul is roughly, 6'1", 2. Gervonta Davis is 5'5" at best.
Jake Paul weighed in at 199.5 kilograms as a cruiserweight, while Gervonta Tank Davis last fought at just 133.5 kilograms in the lightweight division. This enormous weight gap led the Georgia State Athletic Commission to reject the original fight venue over safety concerns, forcing organizers to move the bout to Miami. Although the exhibition match now has a 195 kilograms limit, Davis's noticeably bulked up physique suggests he's strategically closing the gap. Still, Paul maintains a clear size advantage, one that could influence both power dynamics and durability once they step into the ring. The result is a rare spectacle, a clash of size versus skill, making it one of the most unconventional matchups in modern boxing history.
Those little teeny weeny dudes. So that's going to be very fun and interesting to watch how that goes down. Now, on the other side, you know what Jake Paul's going to do. He don't have no consciousness. He doesn't have a conscience about what he's trying to do. He's going to go in there try to hurt a 60-year-old Mike Tyson. He don't care. He wanted to Nate. He's way bigger than Nate Jones when he fought Nate Jones. You think he didn't care about hitting Nate Jones upside the head? He's definitely going to be looking to try to get as much as he can get off on Gervonta Davis and I see him trying to run up on him, trying to maul him, trying to grab him, trying to club him, trying to do all kind of craziness, man. And it's going to be interesting. It's going to be an interesting thing to watch. Now, let me tell you what I really hope, and I haven't seen for this particular card, but I know that I know it's going to be good, which is the undercard. The undercard for the Canelo Alvarez fight and Terrence Crawford fight is absolutely horrendous. There's nothing on the thing that would make you want to watch to tune into that thing 2 seconds before the fight between Canelo Alvarez and Terrence Crawford takes place. There's nothing on that card. So this fight for Gervonta or this exhibition for Gervonta and Jake Paul is probably going to have a lot of MVP fighters on there.
Ryan Garcia compared this event to past controversial matchups in boxing history, like the exhibition bouts Mike Tyson once took part in that fans never really asked for. Garcia admitted that the public doesn't want to see Davis versus Paul either, but said the boxing world often moves ahead with these kinds of spectacles regardless. He emphasized that Davis is much smaller than Paul, making the fight unfair from the start. In Garcia's view, even though fans may feel uneasy about the matchup, they'll eventually accept it because of the hype and financial incentives driving it.
That's a fucking disgrace of a fight.
Yeah.
You know it. Just like the Mike Tyson, low-key was a disgrace, but we accepted it. But
Yeah.
he was 60 years old. I mean, the casuals don't see the weight difference. They see Jake Paul and Gervonta Davis.
Yeah.
And if Gervonta Davis doesn't fuck up Jake Paul, they're going to think Jake Paul is some pound-for-pound champion type of fighter.
Yeah.
Gervonta Davis, he's actually really small. Like, when I fought him, he's small.
Yeah.
So I just think it's a very unfair fight.
Former world champion Carl Froch was blunt in his assessment, calling the situation an absolute joke. According to Froch, talks for a Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua fight were nearly finalized, with a deal about 99% complete. Yet instead of facing a heavyweight giant like Joshua, Paul pivoted to Davis, who is literally half his size. Froch found the decision baffling, calling it clear proof that Jake is chasing shock value rather than genuine competition.
Davis is now fighting Jake Paul. So Jake Paul was supposed to be fighting AJ. Eddie Hearn announced 99% done, which we've just spoke about. What next for AJ? Potentially Jake Paul. But it now looks like that Jake Paul is fighting one of Anthony Joshua's legs. He's fighting Gervonta Davis, somebody who's a quarter of his size. I don't even know what's going on. Has Eddie Hearn been played? Let me know what you think. But the AJ fight with Jake Paul's finished. Gervonta Davis, fake Paul, November. I don't know what's going on in the world of boxing. This is an absolute joke. What next for AJ? We'll get into this, and there's so many questions I want to get into in the next episode. But hope you enjoyed this one. And yeah, I just thought I'd give you a quick update because the news has just come in and I'm just trying to relax and play a bit of golf and I can't. I've got to get it off my chest. I'm going to add it to this video. Hope you enjoy it. Don't forget, if you haven't already, hit like, share and subscribe to the best channel in the business, Froch on Fighting, and we'll see you very soon.
Three-division undisputed champion Terrence Crawford approaches the Paul versus Davis matchup with clear doubt. He sees it less as a genuine contest and more like a stylized sparring match, given the considerable size difference. While he concedes that Davis is explosively talented and a formidable boxer in his own right, Crawford worries that Paul's bigger frame inherently shifts the momentum. If Paul lands a clean shot, that weight and reach advantage could quickly turn the tide against Davis.
Paul versus Tank Davis, they just announced the fight. What's your instant reaction to that?
I don't know what's going to happen with a 135-pounder going up against a 200-pounder. I think it's not a real fight. Jake just too big. Tank ain't gonna be able to get in from that jab. Jake land one good punch on Tank, it's over with.
Jake Paul has been aggressively reshaping boxing on his own terms. By investing his own money into promotion, spectacle, and storytelling, he's turned what many once dismissed as a gimmick into a genuine disruptive force. His financial power doesn't just fund big fights, it amplifies them, drawing in new audiences and massive media attention. While purists scoff at his unorthodox path, there's no denying the results. More viewers, bigger paydays, and renewed energy in a sport that needed reinvention. The fact that this unlikely bout even became reality proves just how far Paul is willing to bend the rules and reshape perceptions to make his wild ambitions come true.
Perspective. But again, if it makes dollars, it makes sense. And we've seen that Jake will kind of bounce in between doing these entertainment fights and then, you know, trying to push toward his goal of you know, ingraining himself in the sport of boxing, and kind of does both of them. So it's kind of a weird place to be, because he wants the respect of the boxing fans and the boxing hierarchy and hardcore boxing people, but at the same time, he'll gain some of that and then lose some of it. It's like a seesaw of his fights. Like one fight, like, okay, that's a real fight, or that's a real fighter. And he'll go and he'll win the fight. You know, Julio Cesar Chavez, real fighter, maybe past his prime, whatever, but Jake goes and wins that fight pretty easily, and then gets a lot of respect, gets a lot of the boxing hardcore love. And you have these talks about him fighting Anthony Joshua, and that was going to get even more respect. More people were like, that's fucking crazy. What are you doing? Myself included. That seemed like a massive risk, but a lot of people were like, okay, fair play. Anthony Joshua, that's a real heavyweight. Jake wants to fight him. He's a psycho, but fair play. And then you announce this one, and it's like, well, that's the same thing people have been saying about Jake for years, so it's a weird spot to be in for him for sure. But I talked about this not being the first choice, and I don't think it was, because Coppinger reports next that talks for Jake Paul to face Anthony Joshua collapsed over network issues. Now, we had all heard the talks, and they were pretty public, from Eddie Hearn, from Jake. Nikisa Badarian, Jake's manager, was over in the UK on, I think, Sky Sports, talking about the fight and saying how it was a real possibility and they were really starting to work on it.
In contrast, experts like Wade Plem argue that Jake Paul has breathed new life into boxing by attracting audiences who might never have paid attention to the sport. He points out that Jake's influence has been especially strong among younger viewers who prefer entertainment-driven events over traditional matchups. Even if controversial, he believes that expanding boxing's popularity and cultural relevance outweighs traditional concerns about authenticity. Vargas Jr. also shares similar views, emphasizing the element of surprise. In his opinion, the unpredictability of the fight adds intrigue. He admits the matchup was unexpected, and for that reason alone, it generates excitement. Fans thrive on novelty, and Vargas Jr. highlights how this fight delivers exactly that. Whether it's good or bad, he believes the shock factor makes it worth talking about.
You know, so I think that Misfits brings a different element. Obviously, there's chaos and all of these things, and it's not the most buttoned up and it's not the most high level, but there are moments where you have some really competitive fights. And even with the Jake and Gervonta thing, it's like, is it the best thing for boxing? That's boxing's fault, right? Like, if you're going to complain about it, point the finger the other way, because everybody else did it. You guys put yourselves in this position where these kind of fights are more interesting than some of your world title fights. And that's really, really sad, I know, but that's where we're at. And is it Jake's fault for being like, yeah, this is what people want to see, I'm going to do it? Yeah. Is it Gervonta Davis's fault? Maybe a little bit, because he's a world champion. Yeah. Give up your belt. To me, it should be give your belt up, right? You're saying to the world, you don't want to fight Shakur Stevenson, you don't want to fight Lamont Roach, so give the belt up. That's fine. Go do that. Okay. Say you're done at the highest level. Say you have no interest in being a world champion, and I'm okay with it. Yeah. But outside of that, man, I mean, it's a money fight and it's an exhibition. Everybody, I think, kind of knows what that brings in. So, yeah, I don't really have a problem with it. But at the same time, boxing needs to get its stuff together. So this isn't the most popular thing.
BJ Flores views the Davis fight as a smart move in Jake Paul's broader boxing trajectory. He argues that Paul's size and natural development make him more suited for cruiserweight or even heavyweight competition. But by stepping into the ring with a decorated opponent like Tank Davis, Paul isn't just chasing a payday, he's boosting his legitimacy. Flores believes this exposure acts as a launch pad, opening doors to tougher, higher-stakes fights in heavier divisions. To him, the Davis matchup isn't an end goal, but a calculated stepping stone, a moment to elevate Paul's profile and pave the way for more meaningful and ambitious challenges ahead.
Funny story. So one of my good friends, Armani, he has been working with Jake Paul for the last 2 years. Oh. There was a little time where Shane wasn't there with Jake, and Armani called me up and said, "Hey, BJ, will you come down to Big Bear and spar with Jake?" And I'm like, you want me to spar with Jake? I'm thinking to myself, you know what I mean? I'm like, yeah, he's beating up all his sparring partners. I was like, all right. I mean, fine, I'll go down there and do it. I have been inactive. I haven't done anything for like 8 months. But I was like, okay, I'll go down there. So we spar a couple times. After that, they decided I was too big for him. And, it's better if we just, not do it. And, then they asked me if I would be interested in like working the mitts with them and helping him with the combinations, because I was hitting him with some combinations they hadn't seen before. And I said, we can teach him all those things and have him doing all those things. And so I started working the mitts with him and helping him out on the mitts. And he told his trainers and everybody, they're like, man, I want BJ around for the entire camp because I'm getting better. My job is like Shane does the advice in the corner and I do the mitts.
Meanwhile, Jake Paul responded to the mounting skepticism over the Davis fight with a flamboyant stunt. He smashed a tank-shaped cake, symbolically cutting down the opposition. The act was clearly staged, a theatrical move meant to mock Davis, position himself as the antagonist, and take control of the narrative. Rather than letting critics shape the buildup, Paul used spectacle to redirect attention. The cake demolition sent a clear message. He's willing to manufacture drama to stay in the spotlight. It might seem juvenile, but in his world, moments like this keep the hype machine alive. And whether you love it or hate it, people keep talking. Do you think Jake Paul can handle this new version of Tank Davis? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Subscribe to our channel for more updates.